Oh, construction champions, it's your host, Ron Nussbaum, and we're here for another amazing episode of Construction Champions podcast where we're burning the house down, rebuilding it, building it up, possibly burning it back down again to rebuild it. Stuff's always changing. If you're continuing to become a champion, one thing I can guarantee you is that stuff's going to change. You're going to continue to grow. You're going to continue to shed old coats and put on new ones and change stuff in your personal life and business. And that's what we're here to do. And today we have a super exciting guest with us. Ilan, it is great to have you here with us.
Hey, Ron, great to see you again. It was awesome we met at IBS and glad that we were able to run into each other there and keep the relationship going.
Absolutely, man. And I'm excited about our conversation here today. You know, we had some time to talk in person, so I know a little bit about you, but the construction champions out there that don't, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yep, I'd be happy to. So yeah, super fun to be here on the podcast. But my background really comes from the technology world. And so I've always been interested in how does technology interact with our physical world? So I've worked at different companies like Uber, probably being the most brand name one, which really was, in 2015 when I joined was a game changer, right? You could all of a sudden, if you had a car or even just access to car and a smartphone, all of a sudden you can start earning money. And that was really exciting and kind of turned me on to this wave of, the digital and physical worlds colliding. And I continue to do that. So right now I'm running Raise the Bar AI, which helps traditional businesses implement artificial intelligence. And we'll talk about what it can do, but I've just been amazed by the ingenuity of small business owners and how they're able to, once they sort of have the keys, which are to AI, what they're able to do with it and what it can do for their business.
Awesome. Well, I'm definitely excited to dive into some of that. But before we do, I have to ask the $1,000,000 question, and that is, what makes a construction champion?
For sure. Well, I think the honest answer to me, having people in my family in the construction industry and having a great deal of respect for folks in this industry is, I think a construction champion is someone who's out there hustling every day and provides a living for their family and can feed their family off of that. And you're probably building something and or improving someone's living space, putting a roof over someone's head. And so to me, if you're out there doing that, which I imagine most of your listeners are, in my book, you're a champion. But I think to take it one level deeper, I think a champion is also someone who adopts new practices and tests out new tools. And in the construction world, that can be trying a new material, a new actual physical tool, but it also can be a digital tool. And so that's what I like to work with construction companies on: is how can you be a champion by taking some of the hottest and most powerful tools and technology and applying it to your business. And if you can do that and provide for your family, wow, what an amazing combination.
Well, it can make that a little bit easier to do the latter, is when you start bringing in some of those technologies and start learning how to do that stuff. It can really open up the doors for what that experience looks like, not just for yourself, but for your employees, for your customers, for your family as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, look, being in construction is hard. You're usually out there on the job site talking to clients. You've got always a million different things to respond to. Plus, you've got to be hyper focused on your product, right? Because of course, you want to give your customer a good experience, but they're going to live with that product for 10 plus years. So there's just a ton of things to pay attention to, and technology can make that a little bit easier. Ron, I know that's your bread and butter right now. And yeah, I'm really excited to share some ideas today about how folks can be using AI in construction. And, Ron, you probably have experimented with it as well. I would love to hear about some of that. But yeah, if you can make your life a little bit easier, if you can produce a little bit more with the same or fewer resources. And if you can make your customers' experience even just a little bit better with the use of technology, I mean, that can be super powerful. And what I see is that's the difference between people who are really able to scale their businesses and keep their head above water. Whereas, understandably so, construction often can just feel like just keeping your head above and just, trying to not drown.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm excited to dive into that. I tend to be out there in the technology realm of things. So I mess around with some AI and stuff. I know if at this point in time, if you haven't heard about AI, I don't know what rock you have your head under, no matter what industry you're in. I mean, it's all over construction as well as it's all over. You can't turn the TV on without hearing about it. And having somebody on here that works with builders, contractors, people in the construction industry on how they can best harness AI on the show. I'm excited to learn from you and hear some of that stuff that you have experience with working with here that can help these guys to start to kind of put their mind around what does AI mean in the construction industry.
Totally. And I completely agree. There's so much buzz and you turn on the news and you hear about it. But I think a lot of times it can be overblown and it can be a little bit overwhelming. And so a lot of folks I speak with have heard of AI and it just kind of seems like this buzzy thing. I think the piece that's missing is how can you actually use it and why is it important? So I'll give you a couple examples. I mean, the first thing and the reason that I focus on construction as a primary industry for me is that construction is all about translating requirements for different users. So what I mean by that is, you may have a customer who has a vision for what they want their new kitchen to look like or what they want their new backyard to look like, right? And you need to, let's say you're a general contractor, you need to translate that into, well, what are all the sub trades that need to be done? And how does that translate to a price for me and a timeline for me? And then translate that to what materials do I need to buy? And that, and so on and so forth. And so what generative AI is good at doing is taking those sets of requirements and doing that translation, building out a bid, building out an estimate, maybe even a shopping list for yourself, right? And that's the reason that AI is so good for construction. That's one reason. The second reason is, unlike other new technologies that have come out in the last 50 or so years, AI is the first one that actually lowers the barrier to entry for folks to use it. Because if you think about it, let's say in the late 90s, early 2000s, everyone was building websites and things like that. But to actually use that technology, you needed to know how to code a website, know all kinds of things. With generative AI, the great thing is that the machines have actually learned how to speak human. And so now we can speak to these machines in natural language in whatever way is comfortable for you. And that is a game changer for folks who are in the construction field who may not have gotten into this because they have a love for technology, right? They probably have a love for running a business and building stuff. And so now they can actually use AI can actually be helpful. And the fact that the machines now know how to speak like we do is really one of the biggest game changers there is.
Yeah, because I mean, in the past, that's been the barrier to entry for construction and technologies like how do we implement, how do we utilize what like there's a steep learning curve. And I always say, so I feel like personally that the construction industry is full of early adapters. At heart, we're the guys that have all the brand new tours. We're the guys that like you go look, we have the latest and greatest, but that has never really transpired over to technology a lot. I mean, I think there's this curiosity. I think some of the stuff that happened in early stage construction software with Silicon Valley jamming a bunch of stuff down people's throats kind of left the industry jaded. But from a collective, I believe like people wanted to have the latest, greatest. We like new toys. We like the new stuff. We want to show it off, but it's been hard to get in that door to be able to utilize it then because you don't want to show something off you don't know how to use.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I mean, Ron, I know that's why that's the angle that you're approaching this at, right? As someone who's run a construction business in the past. And I think we're going to see more and more of that now that the technology is more accessible. And I do think in terms of, yeah, priding yourself on being able to use the latest and greatest tool, I think customers are going to notice that too, right? And even if you figure out one way to use AI in your business, I encourage people to wear that with, a badge of honor, right? That's not a shortcut. Some people, ask me, oh, well, can I put a chat bot or something on my website and pretend that it's a real person who's talking? And I'm like, why would you do that? Be proud that you're using this latest technology, and your customers are going to recognize you for it. So that's really what I would recommend people do.
Why do you think that is, that people don't want it, like they embrace it, but then they like want to kind of push it under the rug? What do you think? What causes that stigma?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's not without reason, right? And I think a big part of it is that there's a lot of sort of negative press around AI, and they want to avoid that. But I think honesty is the best policy, right? Be honest. I think also it'll, if your AI ever makes a mistake, it'll buy you some forgiveness, and you say, "Hey, I'm using this latest and greatest tool." But most of the time, it's going to signal to your customers that you are a forward thinker, and it's going to provide a world class experience for your customers. So I'll give you just one example. Um, you know, Obviously, a construction professional, they're there to build your whatever you're there to build, right? Your primary objective is not to be writing, beautiful reports and emails and all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
But if you're one of the one guys in the field who actually can do that and who can deliver like an end of week report to your customer that's well structured and probably would have taken maybe an hour or two to sit down and write, which is really doesn't make any sense for construction folks to do, you're really going to stand out. And so I think if you spend a little bit of time playing with tools like Chat GPT, or even and we'll dive into this, but if you go into the next level of like even automating some of this stuff so that it's kind of learning what you did during the week and then automating like a first draft of a report, like this is stuff that is pretty, I don't want to say easy, but it's out there and it's available for people to do if you're willing to put in just a little bit of time to do your homework on this new tool. And if you put at the bottom, hey, this is a AI generated summary. I mean, this is, if you've been on Amazon recently, that's what they do to summarize reviews, and they're honest about it. They say, hey, we're using AI, and for them, that's kind of that's a point of pride. And I think if we take that as a point of pride and deliver some real value to give your customer, just in this example, a recap, what got done this week, and you're not, as the business owner, you're not spending more than a couple minutes on this. I mean, to me, that seems like a win for everyone.
Yeah, and I think you touched on something there when we start talking about automations and stuff, is I think one of the preconceived notions around like that is that it's all or nothing. Like I either have to have everything automated or I don't have anything automated. And that to me couldn't be any farther from the truth. Like you have to decide what makes sense for your business to have automated and what doesn't make sense.
Totally. Yeah, I think you've got to be selective about it. You got to be smart about it. I would never recommend that someone outsource their whole business to AI. But one of the ways that I think about it is, if you think, so my background, before I kind of went the startup route, I worked with big Fortune 500 companies, and they use this model called the shared services model, where you're big enough of a company where you can afford to have an entire legal department and a risk department and finance and et cetera, right? Now, and the way they make that work is it's a shared service, right? So instead of each department having their own legal person, the whole company is sharing this legal team, and that's how you're able to scale and make it work. And I think in many respects, AI can do that for your small and medium businesses. So like take legal, for example, right? You're definitely not going to have a lawyer on staff, right? But, a tool like ChatGPT or Gemini, they can actually serve as your first draft of a legal agreement, right? And if you've ever been unlucky enough to go down some kind of legal dispute in your construction business, you're probably at some point, beating yourself over the head thinking, oh, I wish I spent a little bit more time on this contract language. And so that's something that you can have, AI do, or even if you need to sort of consult with AI, it can give you a lot of information about, what your options are in a legal situation. And so I think about that a lot, of thinking about generative AI and some of these AI tools as your shared services. And it only makes sense for ones that you are not the expert in, right? So AI is never, if you're an expert in roofing, AI is never going to do a better job at roofing knowledge than you are. But if you're an expert in roofing, chances are you're probably not an expert in marketing and all these other functions as well. So that's where I encourage folks to go spend a little bit of time consulting your shared services department, aka ChatGPT, to brush up on some of these things.
Well, one of the best ways I heard it put was, we're at the end of the day, we're always going to be the subject matter experts. But what AI gives us the ability to do is to do all the stuff that's the mindless or the hard work. So like if you're trying to craft a letter or something, you can go in, have ChatGPT craft that, and then you can take it and fill in the blanks with where your subject matter expertise is at. It's a combination. It's never going to be as good as you are at your craft, but it's going to save you a lot of time and the ability to do things at a higher level.
Totally. I think, you made me think of one example, which is change orders, right? So if you are in the construction industry, when a change order is necessary, and you know how to scope that change order, and you know how to price that change order, and you don't need to use AI for any of that stuff. So that's coming from you, the expert. But what generative AI can do is, once you've decided, what's the change order, how much is it going to be, et cetera, you can put that into an AI tool, and it can draft an explanation to your client, right, on why is this necessary, what does all this mean, right? I mean, this is all stuff that, yeah, you could probably go ahead and write, but generative AI, if you give it a few data points on, what's in scope and the cost, it can do a pretty good job at writing out all the rest and filling in all the detail. And I think, construction professionals today are kind of faced with two bad options when it comes to a change order. One is you just lob it over with no explanation, and you hope for the best, and you can probably imagine how that goes. Or you could spend an hour of your time talking to the client, walking them through why it is, or writing them, an email about it. And to me, those are two bad options. But the better option is to use something like an AI tool, at least to draft your first draft of it, and then make it sound more like yourself. And I think the more you do it, it's like anything else. You pick up, you get better and better as you go. And that's why I encourage folks to take just one example. Maybe a change order is a good one because it's something we all run into. Just take that, and you'll get better as you go, and start building that skill now. And you could. I would say it's extremely early to use AI in the construction industry, especially. So don't be intimidated. And if you can figure out how to do it this week, and just give it a try, I mean, to me, I think you're going to be way ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really a tool that can just make us better. It's like when we went from a hammer to a nail gun. Like these are tools that can just make us better. I look at it as it just helps make me better as an operator, a CEO, as a business owner, to have the capacity, like you said, just bounce stuff off of it. Sometimes I'll have conversations with good old Mr. Chat GPT over there that are just, I need to bounce something off back and forth. And it has a lot more data than most people I would ever be able to talk about. And I'll tell you what, it's going to tell me the facts. I'm a pretty black and white kind of guy. It's not going to sugarcoat it. It's not going to try to make Ron Nussbaum feel better. It's going to give me good statistical points to make decisions that I'm thinking about, like right now, even as we're having this conversation with BuilderComs, there's things that I'm looking at doing, and I'm having some conversations with not just my team, but also asking questions to Chat GPT, because I'll tell you, it can research it. It can research your market. It can do amazing things that I think a lot of people don't even think about it. Like they think, oh, I have to utilize it to do this or do that, when you can literally use it as a data set to help you make better educated decisions.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Ron, if it's okay with you, I'd love to ask you. I mean, you owned a construction company for many years. Obviously, this was before generative AI, but now you're kind of in this world and you're talking to people. Um, I would love to hear, like, how would you maybe have used something like generative AI in your business?
So I ran a construction company. I didn't own it. I owned a cleaning
Sure.
company and as well, but I've been in residential construction for about 13 years. And I look back at I've done everything from digging the hose to running the company. And I look at it as an efficiency tool. It's something with just like exactly what I just said to you, like I utilize it now as a team being able to do that kind of stuff. The stuff that happens when inbound leads come in now to be able to process them and schedule them on the spot without necessarily having a human interaction. So I look at stuff now from like how do I do stuff? Because I'm typically my customer. So like I buy all kinds of software. I've never once sat through a demo. So that's a friction point in construction is like all this demo, all this stuff. So like I'm trying to make with BuilderComs as frictionless as possible. How is this the easiest way to do this? And that's how I look at it with if I currently ran a construction company, I think you would need less administrative. You would need more high level. It would allow the management and leadership team to be so much more effective. You'd be able to do more stuff on the fly. I think that's one thing that's looked at that people don't really realize is how nimble it makes you to be able to make real-time decisions. Like I said, when you're bouncing stuff off of somebody that has the absolute, like think about if you could go to the king of data and ask them a question about your market or about what do you do, say you're a plumber in Washington DC, you can ask specific stuff to that demographic and get data points you would never be able to get. So it would allow marketers to be that much better. It would allow production and installation and all of like it just makes your entire company more efficient. It allows them to work at a higher level, is what I see. That's what we're not there because I don't think there's companies that are doing it. I literally a month ago talked to a guy that would do 25 million in roofing. Him, another guy, and that's it. All
Wow.
AI, all automation. Like they're literally running a sales team, and they'll sell 25 million in roofing this year. And I
I
think
believe it, especially because of the key word that you said there, or the combination, is when you combine AI with automation. Because AI can help an individual be more productive, can help me or you be more productive, but it can help the automations be more productive. And so that's where, like you mentioned, sales inbounds. Let's say every time you get an inbound, instead of just like a canned response, you're getting a response that's actually custom crafted because the AI is now helping that automation. So, you put in let's say a lead puts in just a little bit of information, maybe if they give you their home address, amazing, because you can get so much information about that. And then AI can custom craft an email about how their pool was, installed 30 years ago and how the code has changed. I mean, it can get as detailed as you want it to. And so to hear that there's a roofing company that's doing that kind of volume, I believe that it's because they were able to harness the AI in connection with automation. And to me, and that's kind of next level. And that's where I think business owners should sort of strive to get to. But the fun thing is that you can even try some of these things on a smaller scale, like right now, right? And so I would encourage anybody who listens to your podcast to just give that a try. And there's going to be more and more tools that make this more accessible to folks, like things that let you use it on your mobile, which already exists, right? ChatGPT has a mobile app. WhatsApp actually has a generative AI feature built right in there because they're owned by Meta, and Meta's got their own model called Llama. And so there's a little button that you can press in there to use it on the go, which is great for folks who are, in their truck a lot. So yeah, there's all these tools. But again, I mean, first of all, it's awesome to hear that story about a company doing that. And yeah, once you kind of figure that out, the automation plus AI, you're really onto something special.
Well, yeah, you start to unlock stuff that, I mean, it's just amazing the use cases and different things. Like LinkedIn this week just rolled out the when somebody makes a post, they'll take highlights from it and you can click on it down at the bottom to be able to like to have a better understanding of what are they talking about. Like you don't know what this is, click here, and it takes you into a thing and explains it, and it's all AI. And like I would have never thought of that as being a use case, but how many times has somebody read a post, not understood exactly what somebody was talking about, but what if you could click on the key feature, the thing about the event or the tool, and it gives you an explanation of what that is. I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's so fun to see what people build and develop based on what are called these foundational models, right? So I think like the big change that happened about a year and a half ago now was that companies like OpenAI and Google and Anthropic, they released these foundational models, which are these super powerful models that have ton of knowledge and can respond back in natural language. And that's what powers all these other tools. And so there's just amazing things that people are thinking of. And one of the things also, I mean, if I put myself in the shoes of a business owner too, um, Chat GPT, I think this is only available for paid subscribers, but has this thing called the GPT store. And that's kind of a bad name because it's free, but once you pay, you can use whatever you want in there. But it basically has all of these little um, AI bots that different people created, and they're for all different use cases, and they're already sort of pre-educated on what your use case might be. So I was looking in there today. I mean, there's ones that'll help you write an estimate, a bid, that'll help you manage a construction project. I mean, I was looking specifically for construction, but I've used it for all kinds of things. If I want to write in, different writing styles, there's even ones that connect to other sources. There's one that's really cool that you put in a YouTube link and it'll spit back like a structured summary of what's in that YouTube video. So there it can save you, as 45 minutes to an hour of watching a YouTube video, if that helps you. So, I mean, I think the one really fun thing, and this has only started to happen in the last 3 months, I would say, is that people are starting to share their sort of user generated AI use cases. And that's a really great way. One, you might be able to use what someone else already created. But two, I bet it's going to inspire a lot of people to say, oh, wow, I never thought you could do this with AI. And now all of a sudden that triggers a thought about your own experience and you can build that. And I think the field is still wide open for people to create some of these GPTs. I think at some point there might be a possibility to monetize it, but I think the real value is going to be added with people just sharing their best practices, and we're all going to generate more value based on sharing this knowledge.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite ones that it's really started to get better and better right now, and especially in Chat GPT, is being able to create images off of text. Now, in the construction world, stock imagery is, oh, it sucks. My marketing guy, my wife, everybody I've ever asked to do anything that involves collecting stock imagery for construction stuff, they're like, this is the worst stuff that was ever made. Now with text to image, it's not perfect, but I'll tell you, we can start to actually get some images that fit what we're trying to convey across, which before the only other option would be to hire people, go to a job site, try to recreate this stuff and create it in a way that works. And now we're in a situation where you can type it out, and typically takes 2 or 3 iterations of it, but you get to that point where it's what you're looking for.
Totally. And I think also, like, one thing that's important to remember is that these foundational models, they're intentionally made to be super wide and like basically know everything about everything. And so this is a tip that I teach in some of my, like base level, what they call prompt engineering courses of how to, interact with these models is you have to help confine the AI to to what you actually want, right? And the more you can actually tell it what not to think about, you'll find good responses. And I say that because, for generating images, like if you're operating with a construction lens, there's a lot of things that you don't want, right? You want very specific, so there's specific things that you want and specific things that you don't want. And that's where, with your iterations, you'll probably start to figure that out on how you focus it on exactly what you want. But the cool thing is that if you, and I think there's an opportunity to use what people have created, but I think there's also an opportunity for people in this industry in particular to actually build some stuff that can be helpful to others in the field. Like a construction or renovation or building image creator, right? That's already, then you take sort of the engine's pre-built knowledge of the world, and you can help focus it for what you think most construction professionals want. And then you let the individual focus it even further to get to what they need. And I've found that generating images, like I'll give you an example. You could try to go to generate an image and say, here's an image of me, now create like a digital avatar. And my experience is if you do that, it's going to come out horrible because it just doesn't have enough information, right? But people have spent a lot of time, going through tens, if not 100 iterations, and you can actually use their 100th iteration. And when I've used tools like that, I've been blown away with what it can do. And it gets really good at detecting, thanks to the hard work that someone else has already put in, and they're sharing this for free, right? It's getting really good at detecting nuances of what's in my image, what they should care about, what it shouldn't care about, and then producing a new image back. And again, I think, like, especially when I think about the building industry, right? Like, you're trying to help a customer or, or even yourself imagine what something is going to look like that doesn't exist just yet. So image creation is going to be super powerful. And if you can help sort of paint that image and get everyone on the same page, I mean, that can help you win more customers, fewer errors, fewer misunderstandings. I mean, it could be really powerful.
I love it, man. I love it. Amazing things. I think we could probably sit here and talk about AI all day, but we got to get people back to the job site at some point in time. So for all the construction champions out there listening, if they wanted to connect with you, wanted to learn more about what you do, or learn more about AI, where do you recommend they go?
Totally. Well, you can always check me out on LinkedIn. That's probably the place where I post my latest thoughts. And so I'm just Ilon Buckman on LinkedIn, Ilan. But also you can check out my website. I try to post, I've got, blog posts, and I try to be as kind of tactical and like being able to just follow a series of instructions on doing some of the stuff that I'm playing with there. So my website's just RTB-AI.com, stands for Raise the Bar. Because I really think that AI is going to help raise the bar in terms of what all of us are going to do. And then there, things are moving so quickly, and you can, of course, follow me. I'll try to point you in the right directions, but people are really doing some amazing things, and people are feeling really empowered now to use some of this stuff. So just stay curious, and I think people will really get a lot out of it.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for taking the time and being on the show today.
Awesome. Thank you, Ron.
All right, construction champions, another episode in the bag where we really dove in to AI and why you should not be afraid of it, why you should embrace it, go out there, learn about it. It's like anything when technology is coming at us, like it can be intimidating, but it's going to be here to stay. And the great thing about it is that it truly can just help us be better if you let it. Just like anything, it can get out of control one way or out of control the other way, but you control that narrative. And if you utilize it to just help you be better, help you make better educated decisions, help your team make better educated decisions, help it create a better customer experience. There's all kinds of stuff that it can do, but it all starts with you going out and just learning about it. Just like we just spent the last 30, 33, 34 minutes talking about it here. You now know more than you did coming into this. Now take some of that knowledge and go learn a little bit about it. I challenge everybody, go find out one thing that you can use AI for in your business this week or this weekend and do it. Or how about going in and talking to maybe your youngest employee you have and ask them what they think about AI. What do they think AI could do for your business? How would they utilize it? Because they probably thought about it. They're probably at home messing around with it. They're probably thinking, man, we could really use AI to make this stuff better. Maybe tap into some of those resources you already have. Make sure you go check out all of our fantastic sponsors. And until next time, be the champion you were meant to be. Hey, construction champions. It's your host, Ron Nussbaum here. And I want to talk to you about how you can automate all of your marketing. We've had so many people on here talk about getting the systems in place. Well, we have partnered with Build 12 and Construction Champions podcast. Les O'Hara, the founder, what really excites me is his 30 years in the industry. And now he's built a system to be able to nurture your leads and continue to utilize that. I personally use the system myself. Build 12 is absolutely amazing. There's a lot of value in there, and it's a way to start getting away from Angie's List and all of that kind of stuff and start actually creating your own leads every day and have a system for them. So go on our website, check out the show notes, go check out Build 12 and what it can do for the front end of your business today. It's absolutely amazing. I highly recommend going and meeting with Les and his son, Devin, and talking to him about what they built for their own business so the rest of the industry can take benefit from that. Here on Construction Champions, we're all about helping each other out. And what is better than contractors helping contractors? I say nothing. So let's go take this to the next level. Go check out Build 12. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or Les or his son, Devin. We're here to help. We want to continue to grow the industry.